on Trump because that can be bad for their business, hedging their bets, I guess. I think the overall bottom line here is the paradox. The economy is strong. People feel like it's not affordable. And you might hear Joe Biden talk about that tonight, what he's trying to do, what he has done to focus on the kitchen table, where Donald Trump wants to have more tariffs, which can be inflationary, more tax cuts, which can add to the deficit, and more deregulation, which is just good for business.
Christine Romans, thank you so much
for
joining us. That's going to do it for me today. Deadline White House starts right now.
Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. A Catholic and a convict walk into a bar. Not exactly, but you get the picture. It's a picture that will be seen by millions of voters here and all around the world. Tonight's debate, one part sacred American political tradition, the first and possibly only presidential debate, and the other 2 parts undignified first, thanks to one of the 2 participants being someone with so little respect for our political traditions, the traditions of our very elections, that he sought to end the tradition of a peaceful transfer of power by denying the irrefutable fact of his own defeat and inciting an insurrection. It will be the first time a current president debates an ex-president. It'll also be the first time one of the participants is currently awaiting sentencing for his criminal conviction. The substance, or whether there is much substance debated, well, that's an open question, too, at this hour. President Joe Biden, who is now in Atlanta for tonight's debate, you can see him here greeting supporters just a few minutes ago, faces a familiar debate opponent in Donald Trump. Trump is a candidate who has a conspiracy theory for every vulnerability he has as a political candidate. Trump claims the 2020 election was rigged, when really the American people rejected him, sent him packing after 4 years. He claims that Joe Biden tonight will be, quote, jacked up for the debate so that he can rebut a potentially rambling, incoherent performance on his own part. He claims his criminal conviction is the work of President Joe Biden and a weaponized Department of Justice, when it is actually the work of completely independent prosecutors in New York and a jury of Trump's peers who came to the conclusion that he was guilty after looking at the facts and witnesses, many of them Trump confidants. But it is Trump's criminal conviction in and of itself that has so far reshaped the race more dramatically than any other event, with Fox News's own analysts showing a serious and pointing to as a warning sign, a serious decline in Trump's support among independent voters. And it is Trump's conviction that he most desperately needs to spin tonight in some of the same ways he desperately needed to spin the Access Hollywood tape 8 years ago ahead of a debate. Politico reporting this, quote, the issue of his conviction is almost certain to come up during the 90-minute debate. It'll be the first time that either Trump or Biden will confront the prospect of sustained questioning on the subject, as well as the first time that the 2 men will have the opportunity to speak directly to one another about it. Reporting from the New York Times suggests that the Biden camp sees it all as part of a bigger picture around Trump's lack of fitness for office. From that reporting, quote, for Mr. Biden, making the debate about Mr. Trump means confronting him for his role in the January 6th attacks on the Capitol, his willingness to pardon people convicted in the riot, whom Mr. Trump has called hostages, and his remark that he's not going to be a dictator, quote, except for on day one. And one more, Mr. Trump's new status as a convicted felon. The Biden campaign has begun to cast Trump's legal woes under a broader umbrella, arguing that the former president cares only about himself and is running in part to avoid prison. American voters on the verge of witnessing the first and perhaps only historic high-stakes presidential debate of the 2024 general election campaign is where we start today with some of our most favorite experts and friends in Atlanta, the site of tonight's debate. Former senator and co-host of MSNBC's How to Win 2024 podcast, Claire McCaskill, is here with us. Plus, former RNC spokesman, the host of the Bulwark podcast, Tim Miller, is here. Joining us on set, former Obama campaign manager, MSNBC political analyst David Plouffe is here. Tim Miller, I start with you. You've been a newsmaker yourself this week with Adam Kinzinger's really strong, really enthusiastic endorsement of Joe Biden yesterday ahead of tonight's debate. Talk about whether that's some wind at his back politically, or whether this event itself, this 90 minutes of face-to-face squaring off, sort of eclipses everything that's happened before it.
Well, I think you need both. I think it's a both and, Nicole. I've been just passionately begging, I guess, any Republicans or former Republicans that are opposing Donald Trump to actually go that next mile and support Joe Biden, because there are persuadable voters, all the ones that we've been talking about, that voted for Nikki Haley in those primaries. And I think that they are going to listen to people like Adam Kinzinger, who showed courage on January 6th and who, are still conservatives, but are voting for Joe Biden. I think that they will listen to the ad that Joe Biden put out today, the campaign put out today, featuring Alyssa Farah, who is the communications director, and John Bolton, and all these others, Mike Pence, all these others. And so I think it's important that they go that next step and endorse Joe Biden to help create a permission structure for those voters. That said, Joe Biden also has to help himself tonight. Right. And I think there is a category of voters, some of this in the Nikki Haley category, some of this in the Democratic base, who have some questions about Joe Biden, who want to see that he has the vigor tonight, who want to see that he is up for this job for the next 4 years. Paired together, I think having that outside support and the endorsees like Adam Kinzinger with a strong, aggressive performance tonight, I think we could see some movement for Joe Biden.
Let me show you, Clara, that ad that Tim's talking about, and let me ask you about how you turn them into, the permission structure is not just to reject Trump, but it's to go in and vote for and be an enthusiastic supporter of Joe Biden. It's a different thing, right, than just the rejection of Donald Trump, which has happened, at the highest levels, from his own vice president to the most important actors here, the voters themselves. Let me show you that ad, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Dictator, tyrant,
dangerous, threat to democracy. I cannot in good conscience endorse Donald Trump.
We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
We worked with him. We knew him. This man is unfit to be president. A second term would be more dangerous than a first.
Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, they're fully prepared to take advantage of him.
Yes, I do regard him as a threat to democracy, or all those things that make America great.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Again, what does Joe Biden tonight do with that?
Well, listen, I think it's a pretty powerful ad. And by the way, there are more. I think it was great to include the military. And this is where we've talked some today about Nikki Haley voters. If you look at foreign policy, if this debate gets into foreign policy, I think it'd be really important for one of the pivots of Joe Biden to be to put Trump on defense about his love affair with the worst of the worst in the world, the people who don't want democracies or freedoms or rights to their citizens. This is where the Nikki Haley voters and a lot of those people that were in that ad lost it with Donald Trump. When they saw him playing footsie with Kim Jong-un and loving up on Putin, and then what he said about what Putin has done to the good people of Ukraine, trying to go in and change the boundaries of their country by force. This is where I think you get Trump on defense, because he doesn't have a good answer for all that stuff. And I think it's another place that you can shave some of those Republican voters away from Donald Trump and put them firmly in the Biden camp, because he does believe in NATO and he does believe in protecting our allies.
Okay, Claire, because you've watched every moment of this political train wreck with me for the last 9 years, let me just press you. This suggests that when we get to the foreign policy section, there'll be offense and defense and opportunities to make point. You're not expecting, are you, tell me what you're expecting tonight.
Oh, I think it's going to get ugly. Don't get me wrong. And I think Joe Biden's number one priority, as I've said over and over again today, is to get under Trump's skin so Trump behaves according to his character, which is outrageously. That has to happen. But every time Trump attacks Joe Biden needs to deflect it with facts, and then he needs to pivot and punch. He needs to go right back and put Donald Trump on defense. Call him the loser he is and go after it. And I mean, throw haymakers, do whatever he needs to do to show pure strength against this guy.
Let me bring you in on this point, David Plouffe. This is in the Bulwark, and it says, here's how CNN should handle Trump at the debate but won't. Quote, here's what the CNN moderator should do when Trump posits one of his extraordinary lies. They should stop the debate, grind everything to a halt, and produce the receipts proving that Trump is lying. These receipts should be on paper and physically at the anchor's desk. There should be video packages ready and waiting to deploy to viewers supporting them. And the moderator should not move on until Trump admits that he is lying, even if that means that the debate never happens and we get 90 minutes of Jake Tapper and Dana Bash pointing to the evidence and asking Trump the same question over and over again, even if it means Joe Biden never gets to speak.
Well, that would be nice, but it's not reality. So this is on Joe Biden to manage this debate, to manage Donald Trump. You can't assume there'll be any assist from the moderator. And so I agree with Tim and Claire. I mean, he's got to show vigor.
Can I just press back momentarily? Why would it be an assist to the moderator to insist on the truth being uttered before they move on?
Well, maybe there'll be some moments where Jake and Dana say, wait, you said this 2 years ago, but having prepared folks for these debates as you have, you've got to assume this is all on you. And you can't be frustrated.
Just talk about an extraordinary burden. So Joe Biden has to defend his record. He has to defeat his debate opponent, and he has to be the only arbiter of truth.
Well, you know, he's trying to get rehired for the most important job in the world. He can handle that.
Yeah.
He did very well in the 2 vice presidential debates. He did well in the 2 debates with Trump. And so at the end of the day, this race right now, listen, it could be this is like 16, where basically all the polls are missing something. But if they're not, Trump's got a small but important lead in the battleground states. But Biden's got the ability, I think, to get some people over the line who just want to see him fight and be strong. And then there's a bunch of Democratic voters voting Democrat for Senate who aren't voting for Biden. And that ought to be another cohort he can get back tonight. And listen, if I were them, I wouldn't assume there's going to be another debate. So this is it. You take advantage of these 90 minutes. And that's the hard thing is, preparing these candidates is you have so little time. And I think the thing Biden has to avoid, and Trump, too, even though he's the challenger, he's a former incumbent, going down a rabbit hill of defending your record with stats, it's just a stone-cold loser. You can do a little bit of defense, what it means to the American people, and you got to paint the picture of, like, the next 4 years, me fighting for people, focused on democracy, focused on the economy, Trump focused on himself. And then I think there's going to be abortion moments, potentially, maybe rule of law with the Hunter versus Trump way they've dealt with this, certainly immigration, certainly the tax cuts. So, I just at the end of the day, we don't know what the moderator is going to do. So if you're preparing somebody, you just kind of almost, you try and guess a little bit what questions they may ask, but you don't role play out whether they're going to interject or not.
Tim Miller, it was in the Bulwark, is in your publication. Say more about this provocative piece, about what should happen tonight, around just the truth, the fact